In this episode, Rochelle talks with the funeral director of family-owned Frank R. Bell Funeral Home. We will learn about the compassion needed to work in this industry and the difference between an undertaker and a funeral director.
The Frank Bell Funeral Home has the compassion and the business savvy and acumen to understand what people need. Funeral homes should, not that they are, but they should be designed to minister to a family as opposed to just doing business.
Provoke. Inspire. Inform. Educate. Inquirer Rochelle.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Inquirer Rochelle. My name is Rochelle, and here I have
Dr. Eric D. Garn, celebrated pastor, preacher, and teacher of the gospel. This passion gives him the ability to spread comfort and care and commitment. He has been on the executive board of the Frank R. Bell Funeral Home since 1985. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Eric D. Garns. Thank you for being here with us, Dr. Garns. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Now, I brought you on the show because I need to know a little more about what a funeral director is, what a funeral director does. Can you tell me a little bit first about yourself and what you're into, and tell me what your role is at the funeral home?
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show, and we're honored to be present. The funeral industry is actually very complex, but yet very simple.
Okay.
The idea of understanding people's grief and where they are at the time of that grief. Frank Bell Funeral Home has been around for us for more than 60 plus years. My sister is the CEO of the funeral home. Myself and my brother-in-law are executive board members, and along with Lisa Laborde, which is also a CFO of our company. The Frank Bell Funeral Home has the compassion and the business savvy and acumen to understand what people need. Funeral homes should, not that they are, but they should be designed to minister to a family as opposed to just doing business.
Okay.
We firmly understand business, but it's about understanding where people are at that moment, and ministry will be a needed component. What funeral directors do is meet people at the unfortunate need of death,
Right.
and it's an inevitable action. So we have to be ready to meet their heart, meet their mind, meet their soul, and understand what they are currently going through.
Just understand their pain and kind of give them a sense of direction and how the whole process would work to bury their family member.
Certainly so, because a lot of people enter into a funeral home, whether they've been exposed to a funeral is one thing. Had they had the opportunity or the unfortunate privilege to actually make arrangements is another thing. Okay. So we at Frank Bell Funeral Home, we see it as education. It's not just making the services or the last rites for your family member. It's also about educating you how to get your house in order, because this is an inevitable act for humanity.
Right. Because eventually we're all going to die. I mean, we all have to come to the realization that one day, and you hope that your passing is not something tragic, and you hope that you're passing sleeping in your bed at home at the age of 110.
Correct.
Question though.
Sure.
Funeral director, Undertaker. Everyone says, I got to talk to the Undertaker. Where did that come from?
That's a 17th century term that actually somehow its euphemism comes to the idea that we're undertaking a task. And the idea behind that also sees that we're also putting someone under the ground.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily that it reflects us educationally, but it does do it facetiously. It makes us laugh. That's why I laugh.
Right, because in every movie you've watched and whatnot, the Undertaker's this Reaper guy with a huge sword or whatever it's called, and he's coming to take you.
It's that gruesome look, but the unfortunate about it too is that most people see an Undertaker as a dark person, lifeless person. They look like they're dead even though they're alive. Truth be told, that's why the movement or the term Undertaker got extinguished. And we now kind of see it as offensive, like, please don't call me the Undertaker.
Right,
so
exactly. I wanted to clear that up just a little bit there.
It moved from Undertaker to mortician. And then after it moved from mortician to licensed funeral director. And that's what we use today, because it understands, and we understand that it is a profession. It is a career.
Right.
It takes on a life unto its own. And we don't see it just as putting people under the ground, because we're educating people about what it is to go under the ground.
Right.
And what happens while you're still on this side of the house. So that's
you're
where it
taking
came
care
from.
of the body.
Yeah.
And you're also taking care of the families and the people, and that's what your funeral home does.
That is correct. We have an aftercare that we literally put in place at our funeral home, because most funeral homes, they do what they do. At Frank R. Bell Funeral Home, we have a distinction and uniqueness to create what fits and works for us. And we feel that families need more than the at-need.
Right.
They need to know what happens, or that somebody cares after they've interred their family member. So the aftercare helps to meet families when they've finished the burial. You can still come back, or someone will call you to find out not just how you are, because we know how you are. Now we want to work with your psyche and understand the needs of the grief techniques, how to work your way to that place of that new norm in your life.
So you have counselors available to counsel family members and friends or family or whatnot at your funeral home?
Certainly so. I myself, as a certified bereaved counselor, one of the many things I do, that is also one of the things that we have on task, on file for the people that come to use our funeral home, rightfully so.
Okay, now, if I'm coming in as someone that has lost someone, tell me why I should choose your funeral home.
That's an excellent question. Choosing Frank R. Bell Funeral Home is choosing uniqueness.
Okay.
Choosing Frank R. Bell Funeral Home is choosing a place of class and professionalism. You can find, many people try to find the least expensive way out. I know the term that we use in the street would be the cheapest way. I'd rather say the least expensive way, because you're trying to cut corners, because everyone's finances is different.
Yes.
Every funeral that we make is completely different. But when you choose a funeral home, you ought not to choose a funeral home just for cost. You don't treat your family member as, I'm just looking for the cheapest way out. If it's their money, then they've worked hard to get their best. And it's not about us collecting, it's about you doing the best service for that family member. And we have to have integrity to make sure that we're presenting it in all accuracy. When you choose Frank Bell Funeral Home, you're choosing that. You're choosing service. You don't want us to just show up to take care of your loved one. You want to know that we have everything that it takes, educational from A to Z, soup to nuts. Frank Bell Funeral Home is not just uniqueness in that area. Everyone on our staff, whether they are a licensed funeral director or if they are a member of the administration, is fully trained to literally take that family from the minute you walk through the door to the moment you are at that cemetery and the final interment takes place and thereafter. Frank Bell Funeral Home is not interested in just the dollar. We understand we're doing a business.
You're interested in the people.
We're interested in the ministry to people. Because that makes a difference. They need to know that you care and you're not just looking for the mighty dollar. That's the problem with business straight across the line.
Well, businesses, nothing's as good nothing is as good as it used to be, because everybody's trying to make a quick buck.
Correct.
But you're selling me really well here. Is he selling the audience? Now, where's Frank? Where's the funeral home located?
Frank R. Bell Funeral was located at 536 Sterling Place, corner of Classen Avenue, and that is right there off of Park Place. If you go straight down I think that's that St. John's bus. It stops directly in front of our funeral home. We're honored to serve all faiths. We serve everyone that taking calls 24 hours. It is a personal, unique call that you listen to, meaning us. That's what I mean by that. We don't have an answering service. That's what.
So I know every time I called, someone, an actual person, picked up the phone, which was really nice because I was able to speak to an actual person.
Yeah, that's why that question that you asked earlier in reference to what makes us unique. That's also what makes us unique. When Pop Frank started, Pop made it clear that we were supposed to be personal. And if you reach to a place where you cannot be personal, get out the business. And he made it clear. So therefore, when you call Frank Bell Funeral Home at 718-399-2500, I promise you, you will get a voice that actually is connected to the funeral home, not an answering service.
You're not going to get that.
Not that at all. And we serve all ethnic groups too. We know that people of color have the tendency sometimes to sway toward other communities and to have them inter their body. But at the end of the day, let's support people of color to people of color.
I agree with
that.
Let's
support. I'm Latino. At the end of the day, I'm Blatino, if you will. I hail from the Republic of Panama. At the end of the day, we want to make sure we're taking care of all. A lot of families walk in and don't have monies. That's usually the first song they sing. Whether they have insurance or not, they usually sing that song because they're trying to keep as much as they can, rightfully so. But what we do is we set up what's called pre-plan. If you know that your house is not in order financially, why wait to the last minute for your family to carry a burden? Why not come in, sit down, make an arrangement that you know is suitable for you or a person that's passing away soon, and then just start paying down. That's the payment plan, paying ahead. I think in business world, we call it paying forward. So what we're suggesting to you to do at Frank Bell Funeral Home, sit down with us. We make an arrangement for every family's financial area. You got $2 million, we can find a funeral. You got 10,000, you can find it. You got 5,000. You don't have to do what everyone does. You don't have to. The long gone are the days where we made these shows for people. Funeral is not supposed to be made a show to show why I did this for my mother and I had 4 limousines. So what? Why not do what it's done from your heart? Do it economically, do it a blessing, move on and keep the finances and make a legacy for the person that you're interring into the ground. Pre-plan exists so that if people who don't have money can start paying in advance. And that makes, I'm telling you, we put it into the bank. It is in a separate account with that person's name on it that cannot be touched. It is an irrevocable account. Cannot be touched by the federal government. Indicts that law on us that tells us the only way that money gets touched is when the person actually dies. The family can't come back and say, I have a closing for a property and I want to use the $5,000 to help the closing. The law does not allow, bank law does not allow us to turn that around and give you back the $5,000. It doesn't work like that. We're feeding and putting food on everyone's table while we minister to people at a very detrimental time.
Across. Yeah, that message across. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on my show today.
Thank you.
Give it up for Dr. Garnes. That was very good. All right, Dr. Garnes, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Cut.
Next on Inquirer Rochelle.
At what age did you come to the United States?
I was 31 years of age.
31. Okay. And then when you came, who came with you?
I came all by myself. I stayed with a friend until I was able to move on my own.
So when you came by yourself, did you have any kids, any children and where, I'm sorry, I should ask you first, where did you migrate from?
Trinidad.
From Trinidad, okay. And then did you leave any kids when you came here at the age of 31? Did you have any children?
So now look at me and this opportunity. It's standing right in front of me. One thing I know, it's only part of Grandeur. I'm putting on my best show. Born in the spotlight, I'm starting my life. Big dreams are coming real tonight. So now look at me and this opportunity. You're witnessing my moment, you see.